I never thought my quiet little neighborhood would turn into a battlefield, but the moment my daughter got hurt, everything changed. You see, I moved here hoping for peace. After my wife passed, I wanted stability for my daughter, Emma. She's 12, she has cerebral palsy, and she's my entire world. Every decision I make, every hour I work, every single thing I do, it's for her. I thought this neighborhood, with its trimmed hedges and cul-de-sacs, would be safe. But I didn't realize one woman, our HOA president, could make life feel like hell itself. Her name was Karen. Yes, really. And she lived 2 houses down. From the first day we moved in, she made it her mission to remind me we didn't belong. She'd scowl when she saw Emma's wheelchair ramp. She'd complain about how the aesthetics of the neighborhood were being ruined. She even had the audacity to knock on my door and tell me, "Maybe you should consider a more suitable neighborhood for people like you." Her words hit me like a punch, but I forced myself to stay calm. My daughter was watching. I didn't want her to see me lose it. At first, I tried to ignore her. I brushed off her snide remarks and the warning letters she stuffed into my mailbox, claiming I was in violation of rules that didn't exist. But the thing about people like Karen is that ignoring them doesn't make them stop. It only makes them bolder. Soon, she started harassing Emma directly. She'd roll her eyes when my daughter struggled to maneuver her wheelchair over the uneven sidewalk. Once, I caught her muttering, "Pathetic," under her breath as Emma tried to reach the mail slot. I swallowed the rage that bubbled inside me because I didn't want Emma to feel ashamed. I promised myself I'd protect her from that woman's poison. But promises are tricky things. Sometimes you can't keep them, no matter how much you want to. It happened on a hot Saturday afternoon. Emma and I were outside in our driveway. She loved being outside, feeling the sun on her face, sketching little pictures in her notebook while I washed the car. She was laughing, happy. For a moment, life felt normal. That's when Karen stormed over, holding a pot of boiling water. I'll never forget the steam rising from it, the way her hand trembled with rage. She screamed something about property value and getting rid of eyesores. Before I could react, she flung the boiling water right at Emma. Emma's scream tore through me like a blade. The water splashed across her legs, her fragile skin blistering instantly. I dropped the hose and rushed to her, my heart pounding so violently I thought I'd pass out. She was crying, shaking, her face contorted in pain. My mind was screaming, "This isn't real. This can't be real." But the smell of burned skin told me it was. I looked up at Karen, who stood there, smug, as though she hadn't just destroyed a little girl's world. My hands itched to grab her, to make her feel just a fraction of the agony she'd caused. But I couldn't. My daughter needed me more. I scooped Emma into my arms, ignoring my own tears, and rushed her to the ER. Those hours at the hospital broke me. Listening to her cry, watching the doctors bandage her burns, holding her tiny hand while she begged me to make it stop. It shattered something deep inside. I felt powerless, like a failure as a father. But somewhere between the doctor's quiet explanations about skin grafts and the sight of my daughter trembling in her hospital bed, something inside me hardened. I wasn't just a father anymore. I was a weapon. And Karen had just declared war. When I called the police, I expected immediate action. I mean, she had burned a disabled child. How much clearer could it get? But the officer barely took notes. He said it was her word against mine, that maybe it was an accident. Maybe she tripped. He said unless there were witnesses or video evidence, pressing charges would be difficult. My hands clenched so tight I thought my knuckles would crack. I begged them to believe me, but their eyes slid away, already moving on to the next call. That's when I realized no one was coming to save us. Justice wouldn't come from a badge. If I wanted it, I had to carve it myself. I started small. I gathered every piece of evidence I could. I installed cameras around my property. I reached out to neighbors, quietly asking if they'd ever had issues with Karen. And oh, the stories poured in. She'd fined a veteran for flying his flag too high. She'd threatened to tow a single mom a niece car because she parked slightly over the line. She'd screamed at kids for chalk drawings on the sidewalk. She was a tyrant in yoga pants, and everyone hated her, but they were all too scared to fight her. That fear ended with me. I filed formal complaints to the HOA board. She dismissed them, laughing at me during meetings, sneering that I was wasting everyone's time. But I kept at it. Every time she slipped, I documented it. Every false notice, every petty threat, every time she abused her power, it all went into a neat little file. And while I collected dirt, I also started digging into her personal life. Public records are powerful tools. Turns out Karen wasn't just an HOA president, she was also deeply in debt, had a history of small fraud charges, and was facing foreclosure on a rental property. She wore pearls and designer sunglasses, but underneath she was crumbling. I smiled for the first time in weeks when I realized it. People like Karen only look powerful until someone shows the world their cracks. The turning point came during the next HOA meeting. The room was packed, neighbors shifting uncomfortably in their chairs, everyone braced for Karen's usual tirade. She started in on me immediately, claiming I was a drain on the community, that my daughter's wheelchair ramp was unsightly. My fists clenched, but I stayed calm, and then I spoke. I laid out, in front of everyone, every shred of evidence I'd collected, the videos, the testimonies, the financial records I'd pulled. Gasps rippled through the room as I played the recording of her muttering, "Pathetic," at my daughter. And when I finished, I looked her dead in the eye and said, "This is who you are, and everyone here knows it now." Her face turned red, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. For once, she had no words. The board voted unanimously to remove her from the HOA. Neighbors who had once cowered under her rule stood up, clapping, cheering. I thought that would be enough. But revenge has a way of digging deeper, of whispering that justice hasn't quite been served. She still hadn't paid for what she did to Emma. So I took it further. With the evidence I had, I went to a lawyer. This time I didn't rely on lazy cops. The lawsuit hit her like a freight train. Intentional harm, assault, emotional distress. The charges piled up. She tried to deny it, but my file was airtight. The neighbors backed me. The videos backed me. Her own history backed me. When she realized she was cornered, she broke down, crying in court. The judge didn't buy her act. She was fined heavily, lost her home, and walked out of that courtroom humiliated, stripped of the power she'd once abused so gleefully. But the sweetest moment came later. Emma was back home, healing, stronger than ever. She was sketching at the kitchen table when she looked up at me and said, "Daddy, is the mean lady gone?" I knelt beside her, brushed her hair back, and whispered, "Yes, baby. She's gone. She can't hurt you anymore." And for the first time since that horrible day, I felt peace. Not just because Karen had been destroyed, but because my daughter knew she was safe again. That's all I ever wanted. Revenge didn't erase the scars on Emma's legs. It didn't erase the trauma. But it gave us something we both needed. Justice. And in a world where people like Karen think they can walk all over others, sometimes justice is the only way to breathe again. So the next time someone underestimates you, the next time they think you're powerless, remember this. The quiet ones, the underestimated ones, the ones they think they can crush. We're the ones who rise the highest when it matters. And when we strike back, we make sure they never forget it.